Hi, I'm Martin, and welcome to the Upgrade Your Day podcast.
A lot of the work is about being mindful because a lot of performance is about being in the moment.
Me acting out being a piece of bacon frying in a pan is a whole different story altogether.
Did you get a standing ovation, Martin?
No, they were going to call the ambulance because they thought I was having a fit. Today I speak to a lovely friend of mine called Jules, who I met, oh crikey, it must be about 20 years ago when we were working at a call centre as jobbing actors, and we've been friends ever since. Today we talk about my time at drama school, about Jules's time as a voice teacher working at various drama schools, and also how drama can be brought into mindfulness and mindfulness can be brought into drama. And also we randomly talk about raiding supermarkets, cleaning rooms, and my talent of bacon acting. It really is a thing. Keep listening, it'll make sense. We do start this chat by talking about the power of saying no, which can be so hard when you're a self-employed performer. So let's catch up with my lovely friend Jules.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know about you, but someone said to me really early on, the only power we have as actors or working in this industry is to say no. That's our only power, is to say, no, actually, I remember I had an audition in somewhere, it was like, was it Birmingham? It was in Birmingham. You had to pay to get there. They weren't paying you for travel or anything. They wanted you to do a dance, a song, a speech, something else. And I was also busy at the time. And I was just like, I really don't want to go. And they went, well, don't go then. And actually, yes, okay, that's turning down an opportunity. But sometimes we have to. And I think that links in, doesn't it, with all the stuff you're doing about actually we have to question why we're doing things, or at least just stop for a minute and think, is this what I really need to be doing at this moment in time? And I think that's the positive thing of COVID. We had that time. We had that time in lockdown to go, why am I doing all these things? Why am I on the train to London 3 times a week when actually I could be looking for more work here, or could be creating some more of my own work, or
readjusting the balance and having the power, as you say, to say no, and also so that then you don't show up in a place where you're uncomfortable. Like I've said on a lot of my live videos that sometimes I'll get anxiety or I won't want to be somewhere, but I go there because I don't want to upset someone. I don't want to let someone down. But then I turn up and I've got anxiety, or I'm not in the right frame of mind. I'm a bit agitated or argumentative. So actually it would have been better if I had not turned up. And I've learned that. I've learned that to just go, can't do it. And I've said before, I wish there was a word that we could say that you go, I'm not turning up tomorrow because of, and you say a word. And that word means I'm just having a bit of time out. When I worked on the ships, we had a thing where, as you can imagine, it's like Big Brother. So you're constantly on. There's always someone's birthday. There's always something happening. And you're always being dragged to the crew bar. Obviously, I was always dragged, kicking and screaming. I don't want another drink. Thank you very much. Or maybe I was the one dragging.
Please don't make me.
What we did is we had a thing where we would say, it sounds bizarre now, but we'd say, I'm on one. And that would basically mean, that's it. Like, don't try and drag me. Don't try and talk me into it. I'm on one, which means I just need a little bit of time out. I'm just going to chill out for the night. And whenever anyone said I'm on one, it was like, oh, okay, we'll leave it. If they never said it, then we knew they didn't really mean it, and they don't need to clean their cabin, or they don't need to, write a letter. Come on, get it down. And I think that's important. I think something like that is, as a group of friends, I think you should have a little word to kind of say, I'm not coming out tomorrow because I'm on one. And it's like, fine. Are you okay? Do you need to chat? No, good. Right. We'll leave you to it. Done.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I just realised recently that because my sister always used to take the mick out of me for constantly going, I've got to tidy my room. But what I've realised now is that is my time out.
Yeah.
And actually, I can organise my room quite quickly if I need to. But what I'm actually saying is that probably the same thing as that. I'm on one, is that I actually just need some time to potter about, to be in a place on my own. And I think also because we perform, people think that we're very outgoing and very sociable, which to a certain extent we are, or we're able to be. But I need so much time on my own now. I really need a lot of time in my little flat, just pottering about, I don't know. I can't explain to you what I'm doing, but just bobbling about, having a nice time. Because I need my head to rest. I need my head to rest, and and it is that thing. And I think it's good that we can talk about this a bit more now, about that overwhelm.
Yeah.
It's really easy to get overwhelmed. And again, in what we do, you're meeting people, even with my voice teaching, I'm constantly with people, catering for their needs, making sure everyone's all right in a room. If I've got 20 people in a room, even if I've got one-to-one on screen or in a room, my focus is totally on them. So then, and because I'm also dealing with voice, I'm dealing with noise and sound and that sort of thing. So then I do need time away. I need time to kind of recharge.
Yeah.
And I think we're able to talk about that now because it's more within the zeitgeist, isn't it? That people understand the idea of being overwhelmed.
We're just all a little bit more aware of not to judge people's situation.
Yeah, and I think that's come out of lockdown, hasn't it? That people have suddenly realised, because also going back to the thing about being self-employed, quite a lot of people suddenly realised working from home when they were working more of a kind of self-employed way. And also that suddenly money wasn't always coming in. They maybe weren't furloughed. They had to go to work and they wanted to be paid. Or they lost their jobs. Suddenly people realised what it was like to be living kind of a little bit more day to day. But that's interesting as well, because living day to day in some ways is good because of, bringing it to the kind of mindfulness and being in the moment. In a way, what we do, we are having to live day to day, but then there's also the slight panic of what's going to happen in 6 weeks' time when that job's over or when I haven't got anything to do.
Yeah, you have to take it. I think that's the thing. Even though mindfulness talks about being in the now and concentrating on this very moment, you have to make plans. You have to. You can't not do that. I have to plan Sunday, even though it's 2 days away, for my summer ramble. I can't not put myself in that place, because then otherwise we're doing that whole thing where we're like, oh, live every day as if it's your last. Well, I don't know about you, but if this was my last day, I could tell you what I'd be doing.
To do. I'd need to be tidying my room, definitely, if it was the last day.
If it's your last day, you'd be tidying the room. Oh, right, I get it now.
I'm joking. I wouldn't be tidying my room. I'd be out partying, Martin, with you.
I mean, honestly,
on Brighton Beach in the rain.
Do you know what I've always wanted to do, Jules? I know this might sound really odd, but I've always wanted to break into a supermarket late at night and just eat everything. Does that make sense? No one ever gets this. When you see those... when you see those boxes of cereal that look horrific, like, the chocolate coated mint flavor rubbish that people are like, why would you give that to your kids? I don't know. But like, I want to take one of those boxes of cereal and eat it, but I don't want to buy a box because I'd never eat it at that time. And I want to just open all the packs and eat everything and try different things and just...
Is that what you do on your last day?
Stuff my face.
Yeah. Now, come on. I will not be tidying my room on the last day. You will not be in the supermarket stuffing your face. Maybe a few days before the last day you could do that.
Yeah, I guess so. That would be sad, wouldn't it? Everyone's last day on earth. Where's Martin? He's in Asda.
Yeah. Jules is in her room tidying her socks.
Martin's making his way through the deli counter at Asda. Oh, dear. What have we come to, Jules? What have we come to? So listen, we probably should start the podcast properly, shouldn't we?
Oh, yes.
We're nattering away, sweetheart, which doesn't surprise me. I'll do a little introduction separately because she'll make me laugh otherwise. However,
Thanks.
I am with the lovely Jules, a lovely friend of mine who I met. So when was it?
At The Wire.
And it must have been,
and not The Wire, not the marvelous television program. Don't be getting that wrong.
When we worked on set.
I wish we were on set on The Wire, but we weren't.
It was a telemarketing company, was it? A survey, all sorts of things. But we worked at The Wire. It must have been about 15 years ago. 15,
I reckon. Maybe a bit longer, actually, because I moved to Brighton about 15 years ago, nearly 16 years ago.
God.
And I definitely had finished working there because when I came to Brighton, I was on tour with the theatre company. So, but the good thing about The Wire was that we could literally just turn up, do 2 or 3 weeks work and then go off on tour. So whenever I was about to finish a tour, I'd go, actually going back to our conversation earlier, when I suddenly went, it's the last week of the tour and I haven't really planned what I'm going to do next. Oh, I know. I'll ring The Wire up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you'd ring them up and you go, I'm available from next Monday. And they go, yeah, great, turn up.
And so we were sort of sat there on our little swing chairs. We had our little headsets. And from what I remember, you used to press a little button. It used to dial. Bear in mind, this was 15 years ago. So everybody had landlines. Nobody was in during the day. And it used to spin and spin. It would hit an answer message and then you'd cancel it. You'd have a bit more of a chat, go make a cup of tea, then press the button again. And we'd never speak to anyone for hours on end. And we were just chatting like to you and to all our other friends. It was cushy, really, wasn't it?
It was quite cushy. And also I remember do you remember some of the actors used to do different accents for each person that they talked to, or different voices? But then sometimes the interviews went on for about 20 minutes. So they were literally having to do like a monologue in character for 20 minutes.
We used to be so silly. You'd get, I remember, I used to answer the phone and some of our friends would be like, do something. And I'd be like, hello. And then I'd start laughing at myself and I'd have to hang up. I mean, it's terrible, really, isn't it, when you think about it? But
also they used to spot check you and sometimes listen in. So you had to be slightly careful in what you were doing.
Yes, I was told off all the time, Jules. I remember doing that holiday one. And this woman was telling me all about her hotel. And of course, I was kind of going, oh, yeah, I've stayed in a hotel like that. And it's a nightmare when that happens. And that woman that used to monitor us used to come over and start doing that, like, cut it short kind of thing. And she used to have a go at me. And I was like, well, she was having a chat about her hotel. And she was lovely. And she went, yeah, but it's not for you to start a conversation. Just take the answers down. And I was like, oh, you know what? This is not going to be for me for very long. Once I got told off, I was on pause for 40 minutes.
On pause? Why were you on pause?
Well, I pressed the button. Obviously, the phone didn't happen. So it went back to spinning. And I was talking to somebody about EastEnders the night before. There was this big dramatic storyline. And the next day, the boss pulled me in and he said, do you know why you're here? And I was like, no. He said, you were on pause last night for 40 minutes. It's caught up on our system. And I was like, oh. I said, well, I went to the loo. And he was like, not for 40 minutes, you didn't. And I actually said to him, I think I was talking about EastEnders. And he looked at me and he was brilliant because he was like, I know you don't want to be here. I know it's not your real job, but you can't be on pause for 40 minutes. We're going to have to
40 minutes.
He said, yeah. He said, we're going to have to dock you an hour. And I was like, fair play. And I was really good after that. I was really, I sort of played ball. But the trouble is you get chatting to all these other actors and before you know it, it's like a social club,
Yeah, it was. No, well, that's also what made what made me want to go. Because I think otherwise I would have just been like, oh, God, I can't bear having to go to this job. But actually, because you knew you'd see nice people and it was going to be fun. And yeah, which is terrible work ethic and terrible attitude, I know.
So listen, Jules, tell us a little bit about you. How did you start off in this business week or show? How did you get into it, Jules?
So I for some reason, from the age about 8, and I don't know why, because no one in my family did it, I just decided that I was going to be an actor. I can't tell you why, or I can't tell you what I saw, or possibly it might have been panto, actually. It might have been going to the panto or the ballet, something like that. And so I always wanted to do that. and did various things as a kid. You know, the Knaresborough Players, local Knaresborough Players. We went there, and we were all in the pantomime there, which was lovely. I played Will Scarlet in Little Red Riding Hood, because obviously Robin Hood was helping Little Red Riding Hood, and Will Scarlet had to be in it. Which we had to sing "Give Me Some Men Who Are Stout-Hearted Men," and then I think my friend nearly died of laughter because the men that came on stage were all the older men of the village. They kind of stumbled on with their grey beards and their white hair, and they were the stout-hearted men who helped us find Little Red Riding Hood in the forest.
So probably wouldn't put that production on again this year, would you?
No, I don't think that'll be happening again. Yes. So, and then what I ended up doing was I ended up going to Rose Bruford. But before that, I lived in Sheffield for 4 years, and I was with a cabaret company called Sticks and Stones. And we did various things like the university, kind of university balls and things like that. Just kind of comedy cabaret, 7 women. Doing quite kind of right on. It was quite basic. It was very kind of shaking your fists in the air. But we got a lot of gigs, and it was great fun. And then I went to Rose Bruford, and I actually did the community theatre arts course, which I think is slightly different. That people talk about community theatre arts now. It was slightly different. It was more about making theatre on a kind of smaller scale, targeting particular audiences. Very much encouraged not just to be an actor, but to write, to make theatre, to create your own theatre. So I did my voice MA at Central. I kind of, interestingly, I kind of wanted to do a directing MA, but I somehow got my sensible head on and went, I'm more likely to make money from, as a second string to my bow, I'm more likely to make money as a voice tutor than as a director. Interestingly now, I'm now getting some directing gigs through my voice teaching.
Wow.
Which is really good. And it's something I kind of want to look at now as actually going into more seriously. But yeah, so it's been a funny little kind of quite a long diversion around through voice. So I did my voice MA, and as soon as I finished my voice MA, I went straight back to acting and said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to teach voice, thank you very much. Or
that
be a voice.
Always happens. Why does that happen with people? It's strange, isn't
it? I
know.
Yeah. I did a little bit of work at the place you trained at.
Oh, yeah. Good old Mount View.
Mount View, yeah. That was interesting. That was one of my first jobs.
Why are you shaking your head, Jules?
Well, it was interesting because I was working at Rose Bruford at the time, and I was working at Mount View, and I think I kind of was cutting my teeth there, and I think I was fine. I fitted into the ethos of Rose Bruford because I'd also trained there and I understood it. And I think I didn't understand so much Mount View. It's a little bit more, and I don't say this. Not dog eat dog, but it was a little bit more competitive, I think. So I think as a new voice teacher, it was I really felt like I just kind of entered into the fray and wasn't quite prepared for it. But I learned a lot of things there, and I don't regret working there at all. But I think definitely the students were probably more competitive in terms of, we want this and we want you to do it like this, and we, more demanding, maybe. I don't know if that's fair. More.
Are you trying to think of the word diva? That's what you're scouting around, isn't it?
I didn't say that. But it is. I don't think it's necessary that. But there is a difference, because I've just directed some musical theatre students, and I think there is a difference in acting, performing students to musical theatre. I think it's a very different discipline. And I think also, realistically, it's much more competitive you have to be much more on your skills. Not that you do, not that you're not skilled as an actor. You obviously actors do need to be skilled, but you have to be really on top of your skills. And I think also for musical theatre, what's really important, and again, it'll be interesting what you think about this, is that it's important that you're on your singing and your dancing, and those can be quite technical. So when it comes to acting, I think some students feel that that's kind of just an add-on. They don't make the connection that, no, the acting is a thing that goes all the way through all these things.
Yeah.
It connects everything. You're acting through song, you're acting through dance, you're acting.
That's why sometimes with these reality shows, when they have a really good singer and the first comment that comes from a judge or something is, or you could be in the West End. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. They may be singing a fantastic song, a fantastic voice, but can they act it? Can they act? Like, you can't just go into the West End because you've got a great voice. I mean, I know it happens, but you have to act through it. And that's why it grates on me every time someone says that. And also, can they do 8 shows a week? That's the other thing.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, isn't it? It's interesting. I often use that as a bit of an example to people. We do one of the places I work at, we do like a 2-week taster course for anyone who's interested in acting. And often it's just people who just want to dip their toe in and don't do anything else about it. They just want to have a go. But it's quite interesting because they get to do voice movement, they get to do some acting, some impro. And I think once they've done that, they suddenly realise it is quite hard work. And also that you need the skills. The skills are really important so that you can sustain. You can have a brilliant voice, but you need to be able to sustain that. And you've got to do that for 10, 12 weeks, and you've got to be on top of it every night. You can't have a duvet day. That's
something they don't necessarily teach you at drama school. That we had a lot of, it's all about the West End. It's all about doing the big, big, big shows. And even when you look at drama school alumni, a lot of it is all they've done: Les Mis, Phantom, Cats, UK tour, international tour. But I know a lot of these people I'm reading have cabaret acts. They're in an ABBA tribute band. They never mention that, even though they're still earning their money performing. They're still paying their rent, their bills, their mortgage, whatever it is. But the sort of schools aren't necessarily interested in that. And there's something there which I think should be explored a bit more with drama schools. I think there's nothing shameful about people that are actually gigging, especially performers like me, holiday parks, comedians up and down the country, gig after gig, night after night. That doesn't sort of get talked about at drama school, and there's nothing wrong in that.
Yeah, also, and that for a lot of people who leave drama school is that they might work for 3 months and then they might not work for 3 months, and they might work, also because sometimes you can't always line it up. Like, you might get something and then your agent might call and go, brilliant, I've got you something else, but actually it cuts into what you're already doing. So, and you can't always, sometimes people will accommodate that, but they can't always, it's not always possible. And I think that's not really talked about. I remember when I was temping at one point, and always when I was temping, I was often either working on a project or about to do something or learning lines for something. And I was talking about something I was doing to someone, and this nurse said, "Oh, that sounds great. Did you not want to be an actor full time?" Like, yes, I'd love to be, but that's like, you're talking about what, 5%? Are you? Is it even that?
I think it's changed. It used to be 95% of the industry isn't working. I think it's now 98.
It's really interesting. I was talking to a friend who's an actor the other day about this. About when I did my course at Central, we did a course on pedagogy, on how to teach teaching, how you teach your methods of teaching. And one of the things, we often did things about ethics and about, what do you do if you know someone's not brilliant, but they're really trying really, really hard? Or what do you do even if you think they are really good, but you just think they're going to go at their expectations? You're really building their expectations up for something that's possibly not going to happen. And I think that I do struggle with that sometimes, that when you're teaching these people. However, and I don't think this is just to make myself feel better about it, but I think also the skills, and it'd be interesting what you think about this, the skills as a theatre performer or as a performer in general are just such brilliant life skills. So even down to things like spatial awareness, being aware of how to work with other people, being able to stand your ground and speak clearly. I know they seem very simple things, but actually they're amazing life skills. And the people I know that trained but aren't actors now have done so well in their other chosen paths. Like, I've got a friend who's a nurse. She went to nursing. She was fast-tracked so quickly because she was so good with the patients. Her communication skills were brilliant. She was able to be present in a space and all these things. And that's what's interesting. Sorry. It's terrible. Voice teacher clearing the throat. It's very... Just like to say, that's bad practice, everyone. If you can, hum so that you don't hurt your vocal folds. Don't be doing what that voice teacher just did, please.
Always working, always working.
Always working. So, I think what we need to think about, and some of the colleges I work at now are very transparent about this, are, yes, we're training you as an actor, but there are lots of other things that this training will help you with.
That's brilliant.
And within the industry, there are lots of other things you could do. So if within a production, so for example, sometimes one of the colleges I work at, they do their first year, they often do devising projects. If within that, you suddenly go, oh, they wrote their own song and they did that, right? We need to just encourage them in that, because that might be something else that they're interested in, or it might be a path that they haven't thought about, being an actor musician, being a composer, being an MD. So that actually it's not just about I'm just going to be an actor in the West End, which goes back to what you were saying about, unfortunately, those are the people that are held up as the people who are successful as actors. And actually, there's a lot of people who work, who also work and teach. I mean, that's another huge fallacy as well. When we were at drama school, if you can't act, you teach. It's just such rubbish, because if you think about artists or dancers, part of their practice is teaching. It's like a circle. You go out, you perform, and then part of your learning is to go back into a space and teach what you've learned. Yeah. And then you get things back from the students, and then you go out again. And for me, teaching is just part of my practice as a theatre practitioner. It's just one of my aspects of my practice, and helps because I learn things from the students. I take those out with me, but I also learn things when I'm out working, and I bring it back.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was at drama school 22 years ago now, so things have changed immensely, I'm sure. But I do know that I definitely, when I was training, there'd be a lot of teachers that would probably agree with the fact that I wasn't brilliant at a lot of stuff. I was probably hovering around the 50%, maybe a little less. But when you put it all together, I think I sort of like had something, but it certainly wasn't to do 8 shows a week in Phantom. That's for sure. No way. But I had that backbone, which was probably built through drama school in very many different ways to actually find what it was that would work for me. And then, that's how I've kept working, by just finding that thing that worked for me. Not everybody does it. It might be a completely different career change. For me, obviously doing a comedy course and changing that direction was what I needed to do. But like you say, I think there is something in the fact that I think they build a little bit of I want to say confidence, but I mean something more than that. And I think that comes from that training, which is so important just for everyday life. As you say, I remember Meredith, the movement teacher, and I don't know if you ever did this, but we used to have to walk around in a circle in blacks. So all in one unitard. And we used to have to walk around, and then she was sort of, are you spitting out your water? Are you laughing at me in a black unitard? We used to have, there's photos somewhere. We used to have to walk in a circle. And she said to me, when you perform, you need to be very aware that you're pigeon chested. And I was like, what? And she went, oh, you're pigeon chest. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she said, you've got a prominent chest. So when you sort of like hold your shoulders back and you stand up straight, you're very sort of authoritative. Just be aware of that with different characters and how that, well, I was back to my mum that night calling her on the phone saying, Mum, I'm pigeon chested. My movement teacher just told me. And my mum was like, oh yeah, the nurse said something about that when you were born. And I was like, why have you never told me? And she went, well, I've never really thought about it. And then suddenly, I mean, it's ridiculous that I didn't think about it until then. But I then realized that sometimes when I button up a shirt, I gape a little bit at the chest because I'm just at that. My
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at your revelation.
I know, it's mad, isn't it?
You didn't know.
It's mad. But it's like I didn't even realize that my chest plate, whatever it is just a little bit more pointy than other people's that are flat. It just never really occurred to me. The good thing is I can carry my weight, because people say, oh, you're like, you can sort of like, you can get a bit bigger in the tummy area and you're still quite balanced.
Well, because your chest is sticking out, so your belly can stick out too.
Yes, I'm like, sorted, lovely, thank you.
That's the worst excuse for going in and raiding a supermarket. I can raid a supermarket and eat all the horrible cereal because I've got a pigeon chest. I'm going to get away with it. I'm going to get away with a beer gut because of my pigeon chest.
I'm going to have another takeaway tonight because I'm pigeon chested. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's...
but on a more serious, well, not too serious, but I think that's the other thing about drama school is people, I mean, not necessarily realising as obvious things as that.
I know.
Oh, look, I've only got one ear. I didn't realise till my voice teacher, to my fighting, to my sword fighting coach told me.
Oh, I wonder where that had gone.
No, but I think that you do. It's interesting because people used to talk about, they kind of, they take everything away from you at drama school and they make you into someone else. And it's like, actually, the work isn't really about that. I think that's a misunderstanding of the work. The work is about being able to understand what you do so that you can then find that understand your habits so that you're then able to change those habits if you need to. And I think these days now in drama school, certainly my experience is that it's much more about understanding who you are and how you come across physically, vocally, but how you come across as a character and how you can giving you flexibility and versatility, which might be movement, might be understanding physically how to make that less prominent if it was not appropriate for a character. But also things like accent. It's been so fascinating what's happened to accent over the last 20, 25 years. Because I have friends who went to Central, so it must have been in the 80s, and they were basically told that one was from London, one was from Sheffield, and they were basically told you need an RP accent and you need to So like a standard English accent. And you need to speak in that accent whenever you go for anything, because people won't take you seriously unless you do. And they were basically told as a year, you decide what you do. If you decide you can keep your own accent, but we advise you don't. Nowadays, it's completely the opposite, which I'm so glad about. And it's just a change in, I think, to be fair, it's not about the schools or the teachers. It's just a change in, our general thinking around this, because now your accent is your unique selling point.
Yeah.
So often when I talk to students, that they go, I need to talk more properly, or I need to talk more standard English or more RP or whatever. And actually it's like, no, what you need to do is preserve your accent. Yes, learn how to do an RP accent. Yes, learn how to do an American accent. Yes, learn how to do a Birmingham accent, whatever you think is going to be appropriate for you. But your accent is your selling point now. So what we're working with mainly is your voice. We're working with your voice, not necessarily you trying to do someone else's voice.
Yeah.
But in learning about your voice, you then will become more flexible, and then you'll be able to, and then you're able to do other things.
Yeah. And also it's a link to mindfulness as well, because at the time I never thought too much about it, but actually doing a lot of analyzing of other things is very mindful. And I know with movement as well, going back to my movement classes, but analyzing something or analyzing animals and the way animals moved, which you could put into a character, is a very mindful thing to do. I
think a lot of the work is about, I was thinking about this earlier when I knew I was going to talk to you. I think a lot of the work is about being mindful, because a lot of performance is about being in the moment.
Yeah.
And placing yourself in the moment so that you really listen and react and respond to what's going on around you. And it's interesting with voice. A lot of, when you talk to people about voice, a lot of them go, oh, I just lay on the floor a lot and did breathing. And you're like, yeah. But again, that's, and people have often asked me and gone, are you doing mindfulness with us? And actually, well, yes, I kind of am, because lying on the floor and breathing, actually what I'm getting you to do is to find a lower breath in your body so you can manage your breath better. Yeah. But it also is about being able to sit with yourself and be present.
Yeah. We were asked to just to witness, whether it was other people or items. We did it for many, many weeks. I know I chose to be a piece of bacon at one point, long story. But I did cook. Sounds like I've had a drink today, doesn't it? I did cook a piece of bacon, and all I did was watch from the moment the heat hit the pan right the way through to it crisping up, and what that journey was. And I know people are listening to this probably thinking, oh my God, here we go. But it was really interesting, because when do you ever watch a piece of bacon cook? You just put it on, you're doing something else, you're getting your mushrooms ready. It was really interesting. And then I then had to act it out. And then me acting out a piece of bacon frying is a whole other story altogether. But yeah.
Did you get a standing ovation, Martin?
No, they were going to call the ambulance because they thought I was having a fit. I was led on the floor, gyrating and shaking, because I was the bit where I'm frying and I'm bubbling. Yeah. And then I started curling up, and they're like, is he still acting, or is he actually having a fit? I said, it's fine.
That's great. I'm really impressed. You were obviously really in the moment.
Yeah. I also was a lion once. I was a lion, which I'd watched for many hours at the zoo. And then I got attacked by...
zoo studies were great. Yes, we did zoo studies. I did some sort of cat, an ocelot or something, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's great, isn't it? Because you learn how they move. And it does work with characters. You can put them into a certain type of character. But I got attacked as a lion, and I was led there. And then I sort of got myself up again. And Meredith... She came over to me and she said, what just happened there? And I was like, well, I was attacked. And she went, oh, okay, but you've got up again. I was like, well, yeah, because I don't want to lie on the floor for the next hour. And she's like, well, if you've been attacked, then that's what would happen. And I was like, oh, crikey, I really shot myself in the foot here. So I was led on the floor for an hour. And then she said to me, but just think about what is going through the mind of a lion who's just been attacked for an hour. And I was like, oh, do you know what? I think I need to get home for Big Brother. It's starting in an hour's time. I can't be doing with this. That's as far as I went. I was like, I'll be a piece of bacon on the floor, but if I've got to lie here for an hour pretending I've been attacked, no, everyone else is having a great laugh, bouncing around as monkeys and giraffes. That was like... But how interesting that whole mindfulness clicks into drama studies. I think that's really interesting. I
think it really does. I think it's very important. And things like, I mean, one of the exercises you do, which I love, is the listening to 5 things. And that I do a similar thing in voice about listening. Listening, first of all, to yourself. So people lying down, and so listening to yourself and your breath and your body, and then listening to what's happening in the room, and then listening to what's happening outside of the room, and then bringing it back to yourself again. And it is very simple, but that it means then when you come to text or you come to working with other people, you are listening. And I don't mean just listening. I don't mean just literally listening with your ears, but listening in a holistic way. You're aware of what's around you. And that is what mindfulness is, isn't it? Is being aware of what's happening. So that as an actor, you can respond and react to it in a real way. Yeah.
And I actually think that the whole point of Upgrade Your Day isn't to say to people, oh, go and do loads of mindfulness and meditation and, enter a completely different world if it's not your thing. It's about finding ways to be mindful that works for you. And actually, I guess this is a podcast to say drama can make you very mindful in a certain way. It's something maybe, Jules, we should look at something together of some sort of like mindfulness drama kind of like workshop, because it's a great way of people doing something, but also entering the world of mindfulness, entering meditation, but sort of not disguising it, but just putting it under a different bracket that doesn't sound so scary to some people.
Yeah, absolutely. And doing it not for necessary to be a performer, but to do it for your own, like I said, life skills. Yeah. And like I was saying, one of the courses I run is, well, not I run, but one of the colleges I work for runs. Is this 2-week course. And what's really interesting, sometimes I do the feedback at the end. And sometimes people, they've got no intention of being an actor, but they've discovered various things about themselves, about working with other people, about just how they operate generally. And I think a lot of the stuff we do is around that. But what's interesting is sometimes when people arrive, if they have no clue about theatre or drama, is that they think it's the opposite. They think theatre and drama is all about putting on the clothes and putting on the character and putting on an emotion. And actually, it's kind of, at its essence, the opposite. It's about peeling away the layers and finding the truth. And I would argue even, and it'd be interesting what you think about this, is even with a big character like Kevin Cruz, or it has to come from a truth or it comes from a real place, and then you build out. And how far you build out is up to you. But actually, what you're doing and what you're creating comes from a real place. And if things don't come from a real place, that's when people don't connect to it as an audience. So even if it's very big what you're doing, or it's very physical, it's very vocal, if it comes from a real, truthful, authentic place, then an audience connects to it.
Well, Kevin Cruz is basically just me on a cider, really. That's where that comes
there from. You are. Comes from a true place.
Listen, Jules. Listen, it's been lovely chatting to you today. I could talk all day long, but I could
talk all day to you.
I think what we've realised is basically I'm very good at acting like a piece of bacon. That I'm pigeon-chested, and that I think I should be in the Mount View alumni, because I'm still working after 22 years, even though I'm doing holiday parks, I'm not in Les Miserables. I think that's what should happen. If someone's listening, get me on that alumni.
Yes, and if all else fails, you'll find Martin in the local Asda on aisle 12 eating the really horrible kind of chocolatey, marshmallowy.
Don't you just want to try them?
cereal.
Don't you just want to try it? You're like, what is that?
No.
Why would you have it for breakfast?
I quite like the idea of running riot in a supermarket at night with you, but I don't think I wouldn't be heading for that aisle. I'd be in the wine aisle with the crisps. And wine.
What we've learned from you today on this podcast, if you had one day left, you'd be tidying your room.
No, I wouldn't. I promise I wouldn't. I wouldn't hide. You see, it's because it's hiding. It's running away. Oh, yes, maybe I would because I'd be running away. It's not really happening. I'd be like that. La, 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 la.
Yes. La, la, la. Oh, my God.
It's not the end of the world. No, I'd probably go down to the sea, actually, Martin. I'd go down to the sea.
Yeah.
I reckon on Brighton Beach, there'd be a lot of people just running around.
Well, listen, Jules, thank you so much for chatting today.
Okay, lovely. Where are you going this evening?
I am in Valley Farm Holiday Park I think it's near Clacton or somewhere. I'm not until 10 o'clock. So I'm going to do a nice little couple hours ramble when I get up there. And then I'm on at 10, finish by 11, home by 1 o'clock. Day off tomorrow. Jules, thank you so much for chatting today. I really appreciate it. What a laugh.
Thank you.
And let's do this. Let's do a mindfulness drama session of some kind or another at some point in the future. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's.
So that was the lovely Jules. I had such a laugh chatting to her today, and it was nice to actually reminisce about my time at drama school, because even though personally it was hard, it was also joyous, and such fond memories of the most wonderful teachers, fellow students, and bacon acting. Just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So thank you for listening. And as always, if you would like to leave a comment or any stars, please do so. You don't have to. It's completely up to you. But I would really appreciate it. And if you have any message you want to send me, then please send them to Martin, Martin, at upgradeyourday.co.uk. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. Speak to you next time.